Well, howdy ho, everybody. This is a trumpet flower growing next to my house on this big vine. Seems to have a mind of its own. They're beautiful flowers and they attract hummingbirds and fantastic plants. But this video is in response to Lobo and your question about GMOs and whether the benefit of the plant is really what it's all about, as opposed to the benefit of humanity. Because I know where you're coming from. We tend to see things in selfish sense. Let me start off by saying that I had a theory last year that excuse me, bacteria were colonizing the earth and using humans as transporters. There are more bacteria in our body, let's say more bacteria and things in our body that are not part of our body, or let me put it this way, there are more foreign bacteria in our body than our own natural cells and whatnot. Now, we use these, we need these, we have bacteria in our gut, bacteria everywhere. Plants have their fungus, their bacteria, their various diseases, which seem to be harmful to the plant, but actually can be beneficial because it can build genetic resistance to certain pests and diseases. So along come humans, and we do selective breeding for thousands of years. And selective breeding seems to be okay because we haven't actually altered the genes. But then all of a sudden genetic modification comes into play, and the question is whether or not it is beneficial to the plant itself. First off, there are certain modifications that may be beneficial. It could be useful. I'm not saying that any of the ones that we have today are. I've pondered this, though, endlessly, whether or not humanity is directed in a certain way to assist plants. Plants are our elders, and we look at them as, often a lot of people look at plants as like something that's here for us, but it's a mutual system. And animals can eat fruits and vegetables from one island and swim to another, or get wedged in a log, and the ocean can carry seeds and creatures from land to land, but when humans bring them, they're called invasive species. And we draw the line by saying that it's okay if nature brings things over, but if we do it, it's bad. And the reason why is because it's such a fast pace that we are destroying ecosystems by bringing in certain marine life that doesn't belong, and certain plants that don't belong. Here in the Pacific Northwest, we have the blackberry, the Himalayan blackberry. It takes over everything. It's considered an invasive species. But in my eyes, it's beautiful. It conquers entire fields, but I go picking berries. So I guess it looks, it depends on how you look at it. It's fruit producing. At least it has benefit. There's use for it. But my thought is, are plants using us as transportation vessels? Just like, animals, but in the sense of GMOs, that would be a completely conscious effort on the plant's part. I don't know. I can only speculate on that one, and I can only speculate on whether or not humans can actually assist nature in any way. I've been up on the air on this for years, to whether or not we can actually improve upon anything in nature. Because it seems like every time we try, at first it seems great. We make synthetic fleece and synthetic clothes and different materials that we can use, and some of them are great. For example, we have the alloys and metals that we can use, but those aren't synthetic. Those are natural. We've just learned how to structure them in a way that's useful. So we're not altering nature. But on the periodic table of elements, we have a lot of strong structured elements. We've created some elements, but some of them destroy themselves within a matter of milliseconds. So we can't seem to improve upon the small part of life. I don't know how we can improve upon the large. I do think that there's something to be said about the way that plants respond to urban sprawl, if you will, and the way that certain species tend to creep up and take over. And I wonder sometimes, like, how much a plant's, you know, the existence of plants really has any influence whatsoever on the environment. I mean, I know that when I walk into a forest, I can feel the energy. I can feel that strength and that bond. Of course, one may say that's the aesthetics, that's just the beauty, that's just being there, and that's part of it. But there's something else. There's an actual energy that comes from being in places like that. So, in modern times, we're exposed to the city a lot. I know a lot of you are out in the country, and a lot of you are in the inner city. I'm kind of in between, on the outskirts of town. We tend to distance ourselves more and more from nature. We have certain trees, certain, what we find beautiful. The plants that we choose to landscape with are ones that we find beautiful or useful. But also, some of those same beautiful plants are also useful. And for example, lavender and sage and rosemary are all great plants for using in cooking, but they're also beautiful plants. So there seems to be a correlation between the beauty of plants. In other words, they're calling out by saying, use me. And I feel the same way about terpenes and smells. And this is kind of where I've come to this conclusion now, that if a plant smells good and it looks good, it's probably good. Now that sounds kind of bold maybe, but what I mean is that generally nature has a way of warning us when things are bad. Poisonous frogs look poisonous. Poisonous fruits and vegetables and things taste and look poisonous. We know what alkaloids taste like. We know poisons, and in other words, plants aren't trying to lure us in to kill us. You see, it's very rare that nature makes these beautiful, delicious, tasty berries that are totally poisonous. There are cases of this, but in general, there's probably a reason why the plant does that. Perhaps it needs, I don't know. I won't speculate, but nature wants us to eat the things that are good and use the things that are good, and it's kind of interesting. It's like it's kind of directing our behavior, even though we're not aware of it. I don't know. As for the GMO thing, I've heard that the certain species of GMO corn have completely lost their natural ability to fight certain diseases and pests, and so basically in that case, with our food, I don't think that a plant would want to have to depend on humans for survival. So if we are perhaps helping the plants, I think we're not doing it right yet. There's there has to be a certain amount of independence on the plant's part. In other words, if we create a new species, something that works phenomenally, I think we could design a plant species that is something absolutely fantastic, but it seems like there's always going to be something wrong, something we missed, as if, it's kind of like we're laughing in the face of nature, saying, haha, look what we can do. And if the plant can't survive on its own, or if it causes damage to its environment, I personally don't think it's worth it. I think selective breeding is an essential part of farming technique, and for our future, I think genetic modification should be completely abandoned, in my opinion. And that's a deep statement, I know, because we also have genetic studies in humans to say that we could find ways to make perfect humans. I just think nature has its way, and there are certain lines we shouldn't cross. And as far as our food, I think we should trust nature to do the work for us and ask it instead of trying to force it. So hope that answers the question. Hope everybody's doing well, and have a great day.